And is there going to be some catastrophe or some big event that's going to happen? That's beyond my pay grade. All I can do is do what I can do and make my little contribution to bringing folks together.
Okay. Go ahead. All right, I have some comments, and then it's something I wanted to draw out from you. Regarding the military, you expressed some hope that like 3/4 of the Marines would not turn on Americans, but that leaves a very large number of lesser educated Army to address, and many of them are from other nationalities, may not be as rooted in our constitutional principles as we would hope. That was one of the comments, because that's a large numbers of people who would be carrying out whatever might come down. The other was regarding the offense at God. I believe that there's nothing that a mature tolerance wouldn't address or have a thicker skin. And the other concern was the I rile at the socialist medical plan that looks like it's trying to be pushed through. And I've been listening to some talks with doctors that have been against it and the concerns that I've seen in other nations. Mm-hmm. You mentioned a national health care.
Yes.
How would you see a national health care come down that's different from what Obama's trying to push through right now?
Well, I think I would go much further than Obama. Obama is offering, along with all the insurance companies and along with whatever insurance your employer may provide to you, which is one reason General Motors is in trouble, and we have so many corporations that are having a hard time competing with their counterparts in Europe, for example, is because they have to provide retirement and social and medical care, and it's a huge expense for their retirees. And that's a burden that we should relieve our corporations from. Now, a lot of what I propose is against corporate power, particularly monopoly corporate power. But at the same time, to be fair, we have to unburden our corporations who are unfairly trying to compete with those in countries where the government provides health care and retirement, and the corporation doesn't have to be bothered with that and burdened with it. So I would go much further than Obama, and I would say instead of having a bunch of insurance companies and maybe a public option where the government essentially acts as one more little insurance company, and you have doctors having to submit paperwork to dozens of different entities, and you have people being bounced back and forth between Medicare, Medicaid, the VA, private insurance companies, the government option, and all of that. I mean, the medical profession is already burdened with enormous paperwork, and we can relieve all that, get rid of all the bean counters and bureaucrats that are deciding what treatment you can have, just get rid of the insurance companies out of the whole thing and make government the single payer. The government would not own the hospitals. The government would not employ the doctors and nurses. The government would not decide your treatment. The government would have one responsibility, and that's to pay the bill. That's a single-payer national health program.
Where would that come to end-of-life or late-stage surgeries or treatments or decisions? These are some of the concerns I heard the medical establishment talking about when you talk about using the money effectively. Obviously, what they're talking about without saying it is preserving the young who can give them money through taxes and eliminating the elderly who are a financial burden.
Well, I don't read that as eliminating the elderly and denying care to the elderly. Doctors would make that kind of decision. There are teams of doctors that sort of decide what care Medicare will provide, for example. And I'm sure that there would have to be a team of doctors to decide what the boundaries of care are that the government would provide under the single-payer system. And if a person wanted something beyond that, whether it's cosmetic surgery or whether it's, some kind of a triple bypass for somebody who's 98 years old and has terminal cancer or something, and doesn't fall within the guidelines, they can do that on their own nickel. But the government would have to have certain guidelines. There are guidelines now. Almost all seniors now are under Medicare, and there are certainly guidelines there. So I don't see that we're giving up anything or losing anything. And, the Republican scare tactics talk about, taking away choice, and they talk about you don't want your health care governed by government bureaucrats. Well, right now it's governed by insurance company bureaucrats. I'd much rather have the government doing it. And I know lots and lots of doctors who want a single-payer national health care program, and they have their own organization, by the way.
Okay, we got another call, another questioner.
Dr. Bowman, thank you so much for what you're doing, for your service to our country now, and your service in the military. I was just wondering, I want to ask you a question a little bit off topic from what you've been talking about, but have you ever had an occasion to work with and meet Chuck Yeager? I think he was a great American hero.
I knew him peripherally, never really got to work with him. Yes, I agree with you. He was certainly a great pilot.
Dr. Bowman, what do you think the most effective way is of dealing with Monsanto and bioengineered foods?
Oh boy, that's a real biggie. I mentioned this in great detail on my website. There's a page on thepatriots.us which is called Issues A to Z. And I deal with something like 100 different issues. Monsanto's Terminator seeds are one. Their new, they have a new successor to the Terminator seed, which is a seed that is fertile if you treat it with a Monsanto chemical every year to, anyway. The whole thing of that, and when you combine that with what they're trying to do now, they're trying to get agriculture completely under the control of the giant agribusiness companies like Archer Daniels Midland. And Monsanto itself is trying to get a monopoly on the world food supply. We simply cannot allow that to happen, and there are related things when it comes to livestock. The National Animal Identification Program is designed so that every piece of livestock has an ID implanted in it, and that livestock must remain at a certain location, and if it leaves, like if a farmer takes a prize pig to the county fair to show it, or takes his bull into the neighbor's pasture to fertilize one of the cows, or, anything like that, they have to fill out a lot of paperwork for the government. So they're extremely burdensome to the small farmers with some livestock. The big corporations like Tyson, with their millions of zillions of chickens, are exempt from these requirements. So the big growers, the big livestock producers are exempt, but the small ones have to do all of this burdensome stuff, which is going to force them out of business. And so, again, it's a move toward monopoly. It's the same thing that they have already accomplished with newspapers and television stations and radio stations, and they're trying to do it with our food supply, and we can't let them do it. And so we have to educate those around us. I'm sorry that in the time I had today, I couldn't talk about everything and raise all these issues, but we must demand that to our legislators, President Obama